Well, I mean, the way that they did it was obviously intentional so that they could prevent an attack, a challenge to the law by suing the state officials who would normally enforce the law. So they gave that enforcement responsibility to just private citizens. And so normally, if you're going to challenge the constitutionality of a new law like this, you sue the people who work for the state who are supposed to enforce it. Well, they created an obstacle to that because you can't sue the state authorities because they're not enforcing the law. And I think Chief Justice Roberts was especially concerned about that. What I think is critical for people to understand is the Supreme Court has not considered whether this law is constitutional or not. They've simply said at this point, they don't have enough information to stop the law from going into effect. They will have to wait until there's a test case that works its way up through the courts of appeal and finally makes it to the Supreme Court to rule on the ultimate question of whether it's constitutional. I mean, there are two problems with the law. I mean, one is whether it unconstitutionally restricts the right to get an abortion pursuant to current law under Roe v. Wade. That's one issue. The second issue is right. It's the way that they wrote the law, the procedure that they set in place. And it's not been done before. I think at least some members of the court expressed a concern about that constitutionality. You know, why do they do it? I don't know. To have the law in effect for just a short period of time before it's struck down, potentially. But yeah, I don't see how under current law that Texas law can be found to be constitutional. Don't see how it can happen. Right. It was constructed differently, and that allowed people who oppose the law to challenge it directly in court. Is it possible our General Assembly could come back early next year and change the law to mirror what they've done in Texas? I bet there'll be some people trying to get that done. Perhaps by then we'll have some decision from a federal court on the real issue here, the constitutionality of the law itself. But if we don't, then you could see other states following Texas's lead.